I've lived here for 2.5 years, and trust me, Singapore has way more to offer than all the touristy stuff you see on Instagram. I got asked to make this video so often, especially via DMs on Instagram, about what's actually worth doing in Singapore. So today I'm finally sharing the top 10 things you need to do here, and I'll give you all the insider tips to save money and make the most of each spot. Starting at number 10, Changi Airport Jewel. Even if you're not flying anywhere, this place is so worth the trip. The highlight is the world's tallest indoor waterfall at 40 meters. You can access most of Jewel completely for free. The waterfall, the many restaurants and cafes, the gardens, even the shopping areas don't cost anything. If you want to go to the Shiseido Forest Valley or the Canopy Park, that's when you pay around $5, which is for locals, and $23 for tourists. But honestly, just walking around and seeing the waterfall is already amazing. The whole place has its futuristic vibe that makes you forget that you're actually in an airport. Another tip, go in the evening when they do the light show. It's free and way less crowded than during the day. Also, if you're picking someone up from the airport, you get 2 hours of free parking so you can actually explore without rushing. There is a food court at level 5, which has some decent local options too, and it's cheaper than most of the restaurants downstairs in the mall. Number 9 is Universal Studios Singapore at Sentosa. It is rather expensive. Tickets are around $81 for adults and $61 for kids, but to me, it's totally worth it. Here's what you need to know. It isn't really like Universal Studios in Orlando or Hollywood. It is way smaller, but I think that's great because you can actually do everything in one day without feeling exhausted or that you miss out on anything. I would also recommend to go on a weekday if you can, especially Tuesday or Wednesday. Weekends can be really crowded and the queues are very long. The park opens at 10, but if you're staying at one of the Sentosa hotels like Hard Rock or Aquarius, you can get an early access at 9 a.m. And that hour actually makes a huge difference because you get the park basically to yourself. There's also a Universal Studios app and it shows you the real-time wait times for every ride. The Mummy raid was my favorite. Don't miss that out. Okay, what I have to say also is the food is very expensive. So better eat food before you go into the Universal Studios, for example, at Food Republic at Vivo City before taking the Sentosa Express to get there. And if you're really trying to save money, you can just bring your own bottle and snacks as well. There are many refill stations for the water, so you don't have to pay for beverages. And actually, they don't really check your bag, so just try to get some food inside. That's what I did. We took some snacks. Number 8 is MacRitchie Reservoir, and this is one of my favorites. This is where you realize Singapore isn't just one concrete jungle, but there's actual nature here. And MacRitchie is really probably the best example for that. The treetop walk is the main attraction. It's a 250 meters suspension bridge, 25 meters above ground, and it gives you this amazing view. Entry is completely free, but they only allow around 1,000 people in per day. The bridge is only open Tuesday to Sunday, so it's closed on Monday. I went once when it was closed. I was so sad. Yeah, it's closed on Mondays for maintenance. Best is to wear proper hiking shoes, not flip-flops or sneakers, because the trail can get really muddy and slippery. The hike to the treetop takes around 45 minutes each way. So bring plenty of water because Singapore's heat plus humidity and exercise equals dehydration. Take care of yourself. The whole reservoir has multiple trail options. So if you're not up for the treetop walk, you can do the shorter boardwalk trail, which is easier and still beautiful. And you might see some wildlife. I spotted monitor lizards, monkeys, and once even a wildlife boar. There's so many animals on the trail. Number 7 is Kampong Glam. This is Singapore's Arab quarter and it's got so much character compared to the sterile shopping malls elsewhere. The Sultan Mosque is the main attraction with its beautiful golden dome and architecture. It's also free to visit and enter. You just need to dress appropriately, so no shorts or sleeveless tops. Haji Lane is this narrow street with colorful shophouses, street art, and small boutiques selling everything from vintage clothes to handmade jewelry. The whole area has this really bohemian vibe that's totally different from the rest of Singapore, so definitely worth visiting. Arab Street runs parallel to Haji Lane and has more traditional shops selling carpets, textiles, and perfumes. It's honestly like stepping into a totally different world. Money saving tip. Most of trendy cafes on Haji Lane are pretty expensive, like $8 for a coffee, but you can walk 2 minutes to Zam Zam restaurant that has been around since 19 2008, I think, and their murtabak is super legendary and costs around $4. So that's really tasty. It's stuffed pancake with mutton or chicken that's crispy on the outside and flavorful on the inside. The best time to visit is around late afternoon, maybe 4 to 5 p.m. when the light hits the colorful buildings perfectly actually for photos. The area also comes alive at night with people hanging out. There's like street musicians, and I know the vibe is just really different. Also, parking is actually easier here than in other touristy areas, and it's also very easy accessible by public transport. Number 6. Old Hill Street Police Station. The rainbow-colored building is one of Singapore's most Instagram-worthy spots, and actually also one of my favorite buildings. The building itself is now home to the Ministry of Communications and Information, and I think some government offices, so you really cannot go inside, but the area around is totally worth exploring. The building has 927 colorful windows, and each of them is painted in a different color. It was actually quite controversial when they first painted it in the 1990s because Singaporeans thought it was too flashy, but now it has become super iconic. Also walk back towards the Singapore River and you will find Boat Quay area with great views and plenty of restaurants and bars. There's also a small park called Hong Lim Park where you can sit and actually appreciate the architecture instead of just rushing for photos. If you're into architecture, there are also several other heritage buildings in the area like the old Parliament House and the Empress Place building. Okay, real talk for a second. This video is sponsored by me, my brand deal blueprint. Because here's what's up. Are you tired of brands hitting you up with, we don't have any budget, but somehow they're still paying other creators? I totally get this. 2 years ago, I was exactly where you are. Creating content, but making $0 from it. But here is what changed everything for me. I learned how to pitch properly, how to negotiate, and most importantly, how to value my work. Since then, I've made over $170,000 from brand deals and worked with over 300 and more brands, including brands like Adidas or Uniqlo. The thing is, most creators think they need millions of followers to make money, but that's actually really not true. Because I started getting paid with just around 2,000 followers because I knew how to position myself professionally. So if you're ready to stop accepting free products and start getting the cash you deserve, I put everything I know into my brand deal blueprint course. Real strategies, actual email templates, and the exact pricing guide I use. The link is in the description below. Your content has value and it's time that brands pay you for it. Back to Singapore's top things to do. Number 5, Singapore Botanic Gardens. This is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and it's completely free. It's also huge, 82 hectares, so you can easily spend half a day there without getting bored. The gardens have been around since 1859, so there's serious history there. This is where rubber trees were first cultivated outside of South America, which completely changed the economy of Southeast Asia. But even if you're not into history, you will love this, I promise. There's the National Orchid Garden, which costs $10 for tourists. It has over 1,000 species and it's really beautiful. But to be honest, the free parts are just as beautiful, so you can actually save these $10 in my opinion. One of my favorite spots is the Swan Lake area, especially in the early mornings, around 7 a.m. When it's still quiet, you can see the reflections of the trees in the water and it's super beautiful. What's really nice to do there is you can bring a picnic. There's plenty of shaded spots where you can sit and eat, and it's way nicer than eating in a crowded food court. Also, there's free Wi-Fi throughout the garden, so you can even work remotely if you want to. I've also seen people doing yoga, reading books, and even like some small gatherings here and there, which is, I think, super nice. Number 4, Gardens by the Bay. Everyone talks about Cloud Forest and the Flower Dome, which is around $48 for the two of them, but the outdoor gardens are completely free and actually just as impressive. A must is definitely the Super Tree Grove, which is super iconic. There are 18 giant tree-like structures that are actually vertical gardens with solar panels on the top. There's a light show happening every night at 7:45 and 8:45 p.m. and it's also completely free. They play different music and the trees light up in sync, and it sounds so cheesy, but it's actually super cool, especially if you're lying on the grass looking up. It's really impressive. But here's something that actually a lot of people miss. The Dragonfly and Kingfisher lakes are beautiful and usually empty because everyone rushes to the super trees. There are also these themed gardens like Chinese garden and Indian garden that showcase plants from different regions. So if you're in the area anyway, worth checking out. If you're going to pay for one thing, I would say Cloud Forest is more impressive than the Flower Dome. The Cloud Forest has this 35 meters indoor waterfall and you can actually walk through the actual clouds. It's like being in an Avatar movie. Also, the whole area is air conditioned, so if you need to escape the heat, that's the perfect spot. Number 3, Marina Bay Area. That is where you get those classic Singapore skyline shots that you see in every movie about Asia. And it's honestly still so impressive to me even after being here for so long. The Merlion is obviously a must-see, even though locals think it's kind of cheesy. I think it's super iconic. It's this half lion, half fish statue that shoots water out of his mouth. And then you see people, making all these funny pictures. What in my opinion you can skip is the Marina Bay Sands observation deck that costs you $39 for adults and $29 for kids. Instead, you can go to the Esplanade Bridge or the waterfront promenade, and you can get free views and sometimes even better angles because you can see the Marina Bay Sands in your photos. The Marina Bay Light Show happens every night at 8 and 9 p.m. and it's this multimedia show with lights and lasers and projections on the Marina Bay Sands. You can find a spot along the waterfront promenade and you'll get the full experience for free. But it can get really crowded, so yeah. The Helix Bridge is beautiful for a stroll with its DNA-inspired design and LED lighting. It connects Marina Bay Center to Marina South and gives you a great walking access to this whole area. There are also viewing platforms along the bridge where you can stop and take some pictures. And if you feel a little fancy, then you can go to the rooftop bar, which has amazing views, but be prepared, drinks are super expensive. You pay $20 to $30 for a cocktail. Sadly, the infinity pool is only for hotel guests, but you can get a glimpse on it if you go to Spago Rooftop Bar and Restaurant. Number 2, Chinatown. And this isn't just about touristy souvenir shops on Pagoda Street where everything is made in China anyway, but the real Chinatown is in the hawker centers, the traditional shop houses and temples where you can see how Chinese Singaporeans actually live. The Buddha Tooth Relic Temple is really impressive and also free to enter. It's 5 stories tall with a beautiful golden architecture, and they claim to have an actual tooth of Buddha on the top floor. The temple is really worth seeing for art and architecture alone. Oh my god, there was a tree falling down. The first floor of the Chinatown complex is a wet market where you can see how locals buy fresh fish, vegetables and meat. It's not like super pretty and the smell can get quite strong, but it's super authentic and interesting to see. In Chinatown, there's also the Heritage Center, which costs around $15, and it gives you good context about how Chinese immigrants lived in Singapore early days. The shophouses used to be incredibly crowded, with whole families living in single rooms. Most of them have been converted into trendy cafes and boutique hotels, and I think they're so pretty. Also, Ong Siang Hill is an area with restored shophouses that's become super hip and pretty. And there are rooftop bars, galleries, restaurants. It's a bit more expensive, but it has this cool blend of old and new architecture. Now, number 1, hawker centers, and this is where you actually experience the real Singapore. There are over 100 hawker centers across the island, each with its own character and specialities. Hawkers are Singapore's greatest cultural achievement, bringing together Chinese, Malay, Indian, and other cuisines in just one place where everyone can afford to eat. Maxwell Food Center is famous for Tian Tian chicken rice with a line up to 30 to 45 minutes to wait. But honestly, there are dozens of chicken rice stalls that, in my opinion, are just as good and it's not really worth to wait. My personal favorite chicken rice is at 265 New Bridge Road, which is also in Chinatown, only 5 minutes from Maxwell Hawker Center. There's also a frog porridge stall right next to it, which is very, very good. And I think a plate costs around $5 or $6 max. Newton Food Center is the most touristy and overpriced. A plate of satay costs between $12 and $15, where at local hawkers it is only around $5 to $8. But since it was featured in Crazy Rich Asians, it's really popular. And to me, it's still worth visiting because of its outdoor seating and the cool vibes. Newton is famous for its sambal stingray, so if you end up going, try the sambal stingray. If you want a more local experience, try Tiong Bahru Market in the morning for traditional breakfast items, or Old Airport Road for some of the best char kway teow and wonton mee, or East Coast Lagoon for really great satay bihun. In general, most dishes cost between $3 and $6, which is amazing value considering the quality and portion sizes. A tip is to always look for stalls with long queues. If office workers in the area are lining up, you know it's good, because Singaporeans love to queue. Also, don't be afraid to ask for recommendations. Singaporeans love talking about food and will give you their honest opinions. Don't forget to bring cash because most places still don't take cards, although more More of them are now accepting digital payments. What you don't have to worry about is hygiene. Hawker centers are heavily regulated and generally very, very clean. Most of them have these SG clean sign, which indicates that their hygiene level has been recently tested. You're all safe. I've never had stomach issues in 2.5 years. That is my top 10 list for Singapore. The best part is that you can do most of these things without spending a fortune. So when people say Singapore is expensive, I really don't think it's true. Singapore might be expensive for shopping and hotels, but if you know where to go, you can have amazing experiences on any budget. Because really, some of my best Singaporean experiences have cost me nothing except transport money. Let me know in the comments which one you want to try first and if you're planning a trip to Singapore. Also follow my Instagram, Swizzyinsg, for more tips around Singapore, what you do, what you eat. And don't forget to check out my brand deal blueprint with link in the description. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like as it really helps my channel and it's actually for free. See you in the next one.